One, two, three, four, five. Welcome to West Virginia and Commonplace. Today I have a special guest, Hunter Farris. Hunter Farris has something really, really niche that I want on my show and on our show. He is a no budget filmmaker. Mr. Farris, can you explain this to the audience?
Hi there. My name is Hunter. So, what I do is I make short films. I release them once a week. Yes, I have a goal to release a new short film once a week, and I've kept that goal up for about 6 months now. But I also have a goal to not spend money on it because the more money I have to spend, the less stuff I can put out. If I'm spending, say, $1,000 per video, well, I can only do a video about once a month, once every 6 months, maybe. If I'm filming on no budget, then I can put out, you know, as many videos as I can think of and cast and get a crew for and have time for. But then that leads into a lot of new complications. It's honestly, though, it's been great, it's been fun, and it takes the problem solving and collaboration of filmmaking to 11, which is honestly what a lot of filmmakers love about filmmaking, the problem solving and the collaboration.
Okay, so what inspired you to start making shorts and movies?
Oh gosh. um, so almost all my life I've wanted to be in the film industry in some capacity, and I've wanted to be a professional storyteller in some capacity. And finally, a couple years ago, I realized that I wanted to go be a writer, director, maybe producer. And in the process, probably 18-ish months ago, I said, if I want to do that, I should actually do it instead of
Okay.
just having it be some pipe dream. So I hired a cast, I hired a crew, I spent about $1,000 to make a 30-second short, and then just kept making shorts. And I realized that I needed to lower the budgets, and um, that's more or less what led me to get into this.
Okay, so when you're doing these no budget films, right, or shorts, like how do you figure out like the target or audience that you want to have for whatever you're doing?
I have no idea.
You have no
I'm
idea.
sorry. I know target audience is important. I have no idea what. Okay, actually, I have one idea what my target audience is, and that's mostly just because of my style, not because of my process. Yes, no budget is my process, but my style is I make movies about movies.
Okay.
So it might be about a film crew. It might be a very self-aware referential parody like Shrek or Megamind, or it might be something where one of the characters knows they're in a movie like Deadpool, or it might be something where one of the characters is extremely aware of the genre and recognizes what's going on and recognizes the tropes like Scream or Community or something like that. So I guess my material and my story leads to an answer of I make movies specifically geared toward filmmakers,
Okay.
but
That's a little
that's
different.
more of yeah, that's my material, not really my process. So that also doesn't really narrow down like demographics or anything. It doesn't tell me whether I'm targeting men or women, or whether I'm targeting a specific race, or whether I'm targeting a specific age group. I'm just like, hey, if you really like movies enough that you at least want to go make movies, then you'll like my movies.
Okay, that
But
makes
if you're the
sense.
kind of person who's just like, I plop in a Marvel movie about once a month. No offense to Marvel whatsoever. I absolutely love their movies. If you're just the kind of person who's just like, I plop in a Marvel movie once a month, then a lot of the stuff that I do is going to feel really weird and out there. And you're going to be like, what on earth am I watching? Not like David Lynch style surrealism, just when I'm writing, I always tell myself, can I make this more meta? Is there a way that I can make this even more meta than it already is? And if the answer is yes, then I do it. That's kind of my rule on writing.
Okay, so when you were getting started with these short films, what kind of equipment did you start out with to do your first one?
Oh gosh. Okay, so the first one, the first two, maybe three, I was hiring other people and asking
Whoa.
them to use their equipment. Now, I wouldn't hire them for much because it would always be a really short gig. It would be like 3 total hours of filmmaking, and honestly, we were probably going to wrap early anyway. Like, really, when you're filming a 30-second video, you don't need to film for that long. But
True.
once I cut the budget out of it, it became, what do I have? Because I'm gonna be honest, if all you have is a smartphone, then you film with your smartphone.
Okay.
Last week my phone died. Like, broke, died, will not turn on. And that's the camera I've been using for the last few months. And so I had to say, okay, what can I film that doesn't involve a camera? And so I had basically two options. I had actually three options. I had stock footage, or I like royalty free stock footage, or I had make something that's entirely around text with no filmed visuals, just a bunch of subtitles on a black screen, or I had used my laptop's webcam. So like when you're talking with someone over Zoom using that camera.
Whoa.
I chose the last one, and I made it a video about having about what happens to a movie character when the camera for the movie breaks.
Okay.
Because if I was going to have no budget and I was going to have no camera, I was going to incorporate that lack of camera into the storytelling somehow. I wasn't sure how, but I was going to force it to work.
Okay, so I see like you put a spin on it since the camera broke, you did all that. Now, is this camera fixed now or have you gotten you another camera to
Nope. Okay. What actually happened was about a week after my phone broke, my brother reached out to me and said, "Hey, my old phone, the one that I use less often, has one of the best cameras on the market. Do you want to buy it for me super cheap?" So he put it in the mail today, and by the time this episode comes out, I'll have a really nice camera. But the last camera I was using had no camera settings at all for video. I couldn't alter the ISO, I couldn't alter the f-stop, I could barely alter the focus, but it was mostly autofocus. I couldn't alter the white balance, couldn't alter the brightness, nothing.
this was a very
Whatever the cam Oh yeah,
what?
it was so ghetto. Whatever the camera saw was what it filmed, which was really nice because it forced me to think about set design, and it forced me to think about lighting, and it forced me to think about composition because I couldn't think about the camera settings. If I wanted a blue environment, I had to put blue stuff in the environment. If I wanted a bright area, I had to put more lights up. Not that I have lights, but I had to just like turn on more lights or go grab my roommate's desk lamp or whatever else and find whatever light I could. If I wanted a darker area, I had to film at night, or I had to close all the blinds. Like, I had to really think about set design and production design and color and all that stuff because my camera wouldn't let me cheat my way through this.
So kind of your camera kind of made you a genius to the fact of all the surroundings around you and how to use them to your advantage, basically,
Oh,
or
I'm
to
not a
the
genius.
disadvantage of your camera.
Oh, I'm not a genius. I'm just a guy who was forced to figure stuff out because that's what filmmaking is. I mean, when they're making Inception.
Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. That's what filmmaking is. When they're making Inception, they're they're going through all this problem solving stuff and figuring out all this set design stuff, and at one point they had to invent new materials to make Inception. I'm not kidding. The scene early on when the dream collapses and water shoots into the windows, they had to invent and build a water cannon that nobody else had ever made before. And when Pixar makes movies, every time they invent a new technology because that's what the story requires. Like, honestly, this kind of problem solving is what happens in all movies. I just have to do it with less money than they do.
Okay. So what made you come up with this concept of a no budget film? Was it after you did your first 30 second and you spent $1,000? Did it just make sense that you could find a sensible way not to spend money to make a film?
Yeah, that. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, the more money I'm spending, the less stuff I can make. If I want to put out something every week, I'm sorry, I'm not filthy rich. Filmmaking is my job. Like when I'm not making my own stuff, I'm on other people's sets helping them make their stuff, and I'm getting paid for that. This is my job. Like, I don't have money to spend on making stuff. And so, honestly, this wasn't a creative decision, it was a budgetary necessity.
Okay,
And
that
that said,
makes
right
sense.
now I am saving up to put some money into filmmaking. Like
So
every time I get a paycheck, I put 1% of my paycheck into filmmaking.
okay, that makes sense. Now let me ask you this: are you going into like a full length type feature somewhere down the road? Are you writing a script? Are you are you going any further, like with something longer than just doing short films?
Absolutely. Um, I see this as my film school
Okay,
because if I'm not going to go to film school, then I need to make enough stuff that I learn how filmmaking works. And I need to learn filmmaking in every possible way outside of school. Well, the reason why I'm doing this film school idea, the reason why I'm doing film school at all, just without going to school or getting a degree, is that eventually I want to go be a writer director in the studio system. So right now I'm researching for my first short, which should be this micro budget feature, one location, six characters, 90 minutes, and I've set up I've run the math on this. We should be able to wrap principal photography in 4 weeks, and we should be able to do 2 weeks of reshoots and then go edit this stuff. And because I'm making no budget stuff and because I'm forcing myself to make stuff where people are helping me out for free, I'm having to say, guys, we're gonna wrap early. We're gonna work quick. We're gonna make this as convenient on you as possible. And in the process, I've learned how to film really, really, really fast, so that once I do make a feature, I can go film in 4 weeks and do 2 weeks of reshoots and call that good.
okay,
Eventually, way down the road, the dream project, the moonshot, the one that I can't give myself permission for, but I really want to do someday, is I want to go write and direct Marvel's Gwenpool. If you've never
okay.
heard of Gwenpool, that's okay. It is not a Deadpool thing, but it's this cult classic comic that I absolutely love, and I really want to make the movie of it. It is the epitome of everything that I do.
So in your work, do you incorporate certain standards like with cinematography, I'd say like Criterion films? Do you kind of incorporate any of that this early on, or is that something that you'll do later on?
I'm sorry. Can you? I'm not sure I understand what you're asking. Can you
All right, like
rephrase the question?
you know what Criterion films are, correct?
Oh, Criterion. I'm sorry. I misheard you the first time. Yes. Yes, I do.
Yeah, and you know that type of cinematography there. Those are the best of the best when it comes to filming. Are you trying to strive to that goal early on, or are you going to try to do that a little bit later?
Dude, I don't care about making cinema. I don't care about making great art. I don't care about making cinema. I care about making movies. I
Okay.
care about telling the story best, and I care about working with what I have, which is usually like right now, I don't even have a tripod. So I'm like working all handheld with a smartphone and just capturing the angles that I feel like will capture the feeling best. But as for my philosophy on cinematography in general, I hate realism. I
Oh
feel like
man.
I know that's a really weird thing for me to say. I just personally feel like realism is never the best way to get your message across. I feel like whatever your message is, there's a way better than realism to do it.
Okay.
I'm still figuring out if that's completely true because, like, the opening sequence of Saving Private Ryan, the realism does kind of help. I'm not sure if there's a better way to pull that one off. It's the only one I've ever seen where realism might be the best way to do it. But in all seriousness, every other movie I've ever seen that's realistic, I would always think, I know what you're trying to do, and realism is not the best way to do it. The best way to do it, as far as I've seen, is generally, not always, to have exaggerated camera angles, to have some things that represent how the character feels, not what's actually going on, and to have this almost, I'm not even going to say that because that's not even true. I've seen that generally the best way to do it is to get some exaggerated camera angles and some angles that focus on what the character feels rather than what's actually going on. So I guess that's generally my philosophy when it comes to cinematography.
Okay. As it
But I
was.
don't pretend to be a great cinematographer or a great anything.
All right. Now let's
I'm
talk
just
about that. Let's talk about the editing process. What
yeah,
is your
sure.
whole stance on editing? Like, how do you get out there after you film this? Like, because editing is a long period, no matter what you're doing, a podcast, video. How do you feel about
Editing
editing?
editing is always the longest part. I wish that were not true, but at the same time, it's good that editing is the longest part because if you have 7 takes, then it's good that you're figuring out which of your 7 takes you want there. And it's good to figure out exactly how long you want each part to be. And since I'm almost always my own editor, I'm learning a lot about what editing means so that eventually when I'm working with other editors, I can I know where they're coming from and I can treat them well instead of being completely insensitive to the situation, having no idea what's going on. But generally, I just focus on pace and performance.
Okay.
Like, I look for the perform. No, that's not the right way to say it. Actually, I focus on the emotional structure of the piece. I'm not looking for the best performance. I'm looking for the performance that fits right there. Because the best performance might be the one where the actor was really showing the emotion and really showing the anger and really showing how frustrated they were with the situation. But then I realized this isn't the emotional climax of the story. The emotional climax is about 3 shots later, and I can't have this be the climax. So I need the take where the actor was being a little more subdued on the anger. And this is something that I'm learning to talk about while filming instead of while editing and telling the actor, I love it. You're definitely bringing out the anger, but this is not the moment for the anger. The anger needs to come 3 lines later. I'm learning to do that,
Or so you're
but
learning how to
generally
get
what
more
I'm
into that
focusing on.
director role.
Absolutely.
And it's got to be crazy being the director and the producer at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. I would love to one day hire a producer, but at the same time, being a director and a producer and a writer and a director of photography slash cinematographer slash camera operator and a sound recordist and sometimes a composer and sometimes an actor all on the same video really makes me understand what's going on so that later when I'm just the director, I can say, hey, I understand. I know this is how long it takes to get room tone. If you want room tone, you must give them room tone. And if you don't want room tone, you're a bad director. So
Okay.
I feel like it's definitely helping me become a better director.
Okay, and something I like to do in these episodes is always do a spin on things real quick. So we're going to spin this bottle around real quick. I want you to help somebody out real quick with this. Teach the audience right now how to start a no budget film. Like walk us through the first steps. Walk us through step A to step Z.
Alrighty. Step one is the concept. If you don't have a story or an idea or something like that, you have nothing to film yet. But yes, that's obvious advice, but here's the point. Your concept has to be something that you can do by yourself with the stuff that you have around your house. If you don't already own it and you have no budget, you can't afford to rent anything, you can't afford to buy anything. If you don't own it and you can't borrow it, you can't use it. So I have some shorts that I want to do that I'm going to do when I start having a budget, but like there's one where a psychologist clearly doesn't understand the point of a Rorschach test. It's that test with the ink blots,
Right.
and he shows somebody one of those pictures and asks, what do you see here? But the picture's like a very clear and obvious picture. It's not an ink blot, it's just a photo of this girl running through grass. And the patient's like, I feel like you don't understand what a Rorschach test is. And that's kind of just how the joke goes on until
Okay.
eventually the psychologist shows an actual Rorschach ink blot the way it's supposed to work. And the patient's like, that's more like it. And the psychologist looks at it and says, huh, my printer jammed. Well, the problem is if I'm going to do that, I have to have photos and I have to have a Rorschach ink blot. If I don't have those, the story literally cannot work.
True.
But I can't afford to go down to Walmart and print off 3 photos, which costs 54 cents, because I'm broke. Because my phone just broke and my car just broke down, and so I can't afford to spend money on filmmaking right now. I have other things that I need to spend money on right now. So when I get a budget, I'll go make that short. But I can't make that short because I don't have 2 photographs and a Rorschach ink blot to make it with. When I do, I will make that. But the point is, your concept has to be things that you can do right now, today, with the stuff that you have by yourself. If you were the only crew member, you could still pull this off. Step 2, write the darn thing. Look, this part's easier than you think it is. Because people forgive you for having no budget. Now, since you have no budget, you should probably put the best writing you possibly can into this. Rewrite it a couple times. If you're wondering how to get the formatting right, just use Celtx. That's CELTX.com. It's free. It does everything for you. Just let Celtx do the work for you. Just go on Celtx and do that. But if you really can't, then just, write down the lines in a Word document and email it to your, or even a Google Doc and email it to your cast and crew, because they'll get it if you make it clear. The point is clarity. The point is not to look like a Hollywood feature yet.
Okay, transparency.
Just keep rewriting, though, because your first draft is never the best version. Honestly, what I wish I could change about my process is to give myself time to rewrite things like 20 different drafts. I would love to only make it when I'm at draft number 20, because I want to just really perfect that writing. That said, dude, it's a 30-second short. How much rewriting do you really need? Speaking of which, sorry, back to concept. Remember, not back to concept yet. Step 3, get people. Unless you really are going to be the only cast member and the only crew member, you need other people. Filmmaking is an inherently collaborative process. The people who say that they are in charge of the people who are, I'm the director and this is the way we're going to do it and I'm in charge and we're going to do it my way, are leaving Hollywood. They are either dead or they're not getting jobs anymore. The only 2 who are like that nowadays are Chris Nolan and David Fincher. That's it. And Chris Nolan can pull it off because he's the best producer in the world, because everybody loves working with Chris Nolan. Because yes, he's an auteur. It's his way or the highway. But he set it up well enough that you can go his way and enjoy it. You are not Chris Nolan. You are not David Fincher. You are not Stanley Kubrick. You don't get to be that person. You are a dude with a smartphone and a cardboard box. You don't get to be Chris Nolan or David Fincher. You are asking people to help you out and work for free. Make it as convenient on them as possible. No, really. I've had shorts where I've told people this is going to be the easiest thing you've ever filmed. You have one line. One. We can film your whole thing in 5 minutes and you can go home. It's going to take more time for you to drive to set than it will for you to be on set, because I always give myself a goal of never going over 3 hours, and I always give myself a goal to wrap early. I always tell my cast and crew we're gonna work from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. and then I always wrap around 3:15. Because again, My goal is to make things as easy on the cast and the crew as possible, because the last thing I want is for them to work for free and hate it. Because movies are supposed to be fun, and if the filmmakers aren't having fun, then why would the audience have fun? So, going back to concept, if you're only going to be filming for X amount of time and you're going to be working with people who are working for free, you need a short that works with that. Like, if you're only going to film for 3 hours, okay, I can reasonably pull off 1 minute of screen time in 3 hours.
Okay.
If I'm kind of being lackadaisical about it, I can pull off a minute. If I'm really pushing it, I can get 2, maybe 3 minutes out of 3 hours of filming. Which means the first thing that I need to do while I'm writing is never go over 2 minutes.
Right.
If I'm gonna be going over 2 minutes, I need to account for that in the amount of time that we're filming. If I'm gonna go over 2 minutes, I'm gonna say, okay, we're gonna have maybe 4 hours of filming or 5 hours of filming. Speaking of which, there is a law that if you're filming for 6 hours or more, you must, by law, feed your cast and crew.
Oh, whoa.
I have no money.
So you're going to wrap it up quick.
Yeah, if I hit 6 hours, then I failed, because it's not that I don't want to feed my cast and crew. I want to treat my cast and crew right. If I can feed you, I will feed you. I can't feed you. I can't do that right now because I have no money. This is not an artistic choice. This is a budgetary necessity.
Right.
When I have money, I will feed you. But that means that I have to work fast, and I have to force myself to work fast, which also means, I'm sorry, again, you are not Stanley Kubrick, you are not David Fincher. You do not get to do 70 takes of anything. I'm not trying to be rude here, but in all seriousness, some people do want to be Stanley Kubrick. Some people want to be David Fincher. When you're working with money, you can do that. When people love your work so much that when Jesse Eisenberg hears so-and-so is making a new movie, he calls his agent and says, I don't care what you have to do, get me on that cast. You can be David Fincher. That's what happened with The Social Network.
Okay, it makes sense.
Jesse Eisenberg heard that David Fincher was making a new movie, and he called up his agent and said, I don't care what you have to do, get me on that cast. When you're at that level of clout, you can act like David Fincher. But until you get that level of clout, you can't act like David Fincher. And once you get that level of clout, you'll have learned why not to act like David. I'm kidding. David Fincher really does keep his cast and crew happy. That's why he can afford to be an auteur. But the point is, you can't do that many takes. I do 3 to 5 takes and I move on. If I haven't got it in 3 to 5 takes, we're moving on anyway.
You'll figure it out later.
One of these takes is going to be okay. It's not going to be great, but it's going to be okay. 2, because if I haven't gotten in 3 to 5 takes, that means that I didn't direct well enough. For me personally, I know other directors say I have to get 11 takes. That's okay. That's how they work. But for me, I want to talk with the the cast member. I want to talk with the talent enough that they know exactly what I'm going for before we get take 1. If things go well, I'll get it if I've talked with the talent enough and rehearsed enough, on the first take, we got it. We're doing 2 more for safety just in case something goes wrong, and we're moving on. But my goal is to talk with the talent enough and rehearse enough that they know what I'm aiming for. Also, I just don't have time to do 70 takes. David Fincher and Stanley Kubrick, they do 70, 90, 120 takes. I don't have time for that. Nobody's got time for that. We're doing 3 takes, 7 at the absolute most, and we're going home.
Okay, that's understandable. So those tips that you got right there that would help somebody. Here's my question, because I know I work in a business where I deal with a lot of retail, so I see things on sale. So say if I found a video blogging kit, or what is it, vlogging or something like that. If I found one of those, would that be something that I could use to kind of start out? Because I've seen some that have different little lights. Like I said, I have no type of film background, so I can't even tell you all the stuff. And I even seen a little boom on there. seen it at Walmart for like $19.
I'm seriously reconsidering my business model now. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
But in all
because
seriousness, sorry, go ahead.
because like I'm a cheap tech guy. Like yeah, I may use a Mac for this and that, or Apple for everything else. But my microphone's like $29. So that's why that's what kind of attracted me to your no budget film. You know, you're keeping it really tight. Um, like I said, if my condenser mic's $29, my headphones are $5. I don't waste money, you know, unless I'm going to turn a profit on it. So, in
Good.
doing these short films, how do you monetize that?
I don't.
Not yet, or
Again,
just
not yet. I'm putting out a Patreon announcement video at the first of the year, and it's a video about a Patreon announcement video. It's a video about the tiers that we're doing, but it's put in a comedic spin. It's a. It wasn't supposed to be a Patreon announcement video. I just thought this was going to be funny, and then I realized that it would be funnier if it were a Patreon announcement video.
okay. So what you're doing
So
is you're going to
yes,
turn yourself more into a personality when you do that.
um, sure, I guess.
I mean,
I mean,
you get my take on this when you step over into that field over there. You're doing your job, budget no budget filmmaking, but you're making yourself an entertainer when you do this because what you just told me is what something an entertainer would do. So you're going to turn into an entertainer once you do that, correct?
I mean, that's what filmmaking is. It's entertainment. I
Right.
mean, yeah, it can be art, it can be drama, it can be extremely ponderous, important, sometimes pretentious pieces of cinema. I don't do that. I entertain people. And if it's not funny, then I didn't do my job right. I'm not trying to say I'm a clown. I'm not a comedian. I'm not actually funny. I get a lot of people's feedback and I ask, hey, is this funny before I actually go and film it? Anyway, sorry. Um, as for the Patreon, as for the Patreon thing though, honestly, I'm just gonna do the same stuff and I'm gonna
Okay.
keep doing it. And I'm gonna say, hey, if you want to give me money, then give me money. But that's about all the monetization I can do right now. Later on, I'm gonna, turn on ads on YouTube when I
Okay.
have enough views that matters,
All right.
which will
So
not be for several years.
well, it may be closer to the date. You never know when you're going to get your 15 minutes of fame. So right
Yeah,
now, I'm
that's
going
true.
to give you my Diane Sawyer, Barbara Walters question here. Okay, if I want to see your videos today, where do I go to find them?
All right. The social media handle, the name of the wow, I'm just stuttering all over the place. The social media handle, the name of the page, the name of the show is Bueller Studios, like Ferris Bueller. My last name is Farris, so I figured I might as well lean into it. If people are going to make jokes about it, I might as well I might as well make the jokes first. Bueller Studios. You can find it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Vimeo, Twitter. If there are videos shown there and you don't have to pay to access it, you can find it there. And if you
You,
can't find it there, please let me know so that I can go put it. So I can go put it there.
one thing I noticed that you didn't say, I didn't hear Tumblr, even though nobody goes there very often.
You can put videos on Tumblr.
We'll talk about this after the podcast.
Note to self: start putting videos on Tumblr again. If I can put videos there, I will put videos there. And if I'm not putting videos there yet, I want to know so that I can start putting videos there. I've had 3 views total on Vimeo, but like that's still 3 more views.
Right. So let me ask you this: are you out here? Did you say Snapchat?
Ooh, somebody else has suggested Snapchat.
Yeah,
I
because
think I do have Snapchat.
understand
Yeah.
understand what, like everyone I interview about this, they're not understanding this advertisement gorilla that you have with Snapchat. You have a TikTok, so that's putting you over the top already. That's like super promotion. My girlfriend is so hype into it. My best buddy that travels with me around the world, all he does is watch TikTok, which is baffling to me. But TikTok and Snapchat, for some reason, them with a slow integration of Instagram, I have found that those three things are the trifecta in advertising.
Honestly, I get more views on TikTok than anywhere else except Facebook. But that's because I spend several hours promoting it every single week on Facebook. Specifically TikTok, I just upload it and I'm done, and I get like 400 to 800 views. Okay, somewhere between 200 and 400 views a week, which is not big for TikTok. but it's big for me.
Right,
Like,
and that's what I'm saying. This whole model that everybody's doing, like I tell them, you take that TikTok and you take that Snapchat, you go to Linktree, you put them together. You take Instagram, Linktree, put it all together. You have just made yourself a media juggernaut. You know?
and considering where I want to be is big enough that some guy at Blumhouse or Paramount or Marvel will say, "Yeah, that guy. I want to hire you." Then, yeah, I need to be doing the media juggernaut things like being on TikTok and Snapchat. I'm on Instagram. I don't really do much on Instagram. I need to do more on Instagram.
Yeah, turn your page over to a business page and run with it. It gives you good insights and things like that. So we're
Note
getting to the
taken.
middle of the show, or almost towards the end, wherever we're the show finishes itself. So I've got to do something with you. It's something I do with every guest on my show.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, this is really serious, so I need you to get your serious face on. The audience can't see your face, but they can hear your voice.
I don't have a serious face.
You don't have a serious face? Well, we'll just get one for 2 seconds.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I do have a serious face, but like,
All right, so here we
I'm a
go.
filmmaker. I make comedy. I don't have a serious face. I have flippancy. That's all I have.
Okay.
Anyway,
All right, so here's
let's
the
get
thing.
into it.
My audience and I would like to know something about you or a hidden talent that you've never told anyone about.
That's hard because I tell a lot of people about a lot of things. Um,
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a talent, but just something that no one knows about you. Like, for instance, I have a guy that's been on the show that can do a Rubik's Cube in 30 seconds. He can solve it. It's on YouTube. Ridiculous. He's a rapper. He's in New York City, doing whatever they do in New York City, and he can just take a Rubik's Cube and solve it. Some crazy mind function.
I mean, I play piano. I play guitar. I used to teach piano. I play D&D. Yeah, D&D is about the closest that I have to something that I don't that nobody knows. I mean, all my friends know, but like I go by a different name when I'm DMing.
Okay.
So that's about the closest that I have. I'm sorry. I'm
Oh,
kind of an open book. I don't really have secrets.
well, that's awesome. I mean, as long as you have something, because like everybody has something. Like, for instance, with me, I do not like beets. I will lose a friend. I will lose a wife. I will lose a house over beets. If you have beets, you try to serve me those root vegetables, I will leave your house. I will even put
I
in a
thought you were
rating.
talking.
Huh?
I thought you were talking about the headphones by Dr. Dre.
No, no, no. Like beets that you eat.
Yeah,
If
that makes more sense.
Yeah, if you serve me beets, we're done, and everyone that's involved with us is not coming to your house anymore. And I'm gonna write a bad review on you on Google. So yeah, it gets that kind of serious. So with all that said, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show today.
Thank you.
West Virginia Uncommonplace, we always appreciate people with um, out the box ideas, because this is really like, this is a crazy concept. Like, with what you've said today, when this goes on air and people listen to this, it's going to be some kid. Now, I understand you're in Utah, but we're talking about, I'm out here in West Virginia, these cold mountains. There may be some kid with a stolen cell phone that decides that he wants to make a movie now because it's free. You know, he has a phone, he can use it, and now he can take this concept that you said, do everything for free. You don't have to waste money to make a film.
Well then, I'm gonna talk to that kid for a sec. I'm sorry. There's a little bit of stuff that you need to know. You're not supposed to do this. You're supposed to pay your cast and crew. I can't. And so I do literally everything I possibly can to benefit them. That might be promoting their stuff. It might be plugging their work, kind of like you're doing on this podcast of asking the audience where they can find my work. It might be making it. It might be making it fast on them. It's most importantly being the nicest person they've ever met, but still being a director. You are
Okay.
still the director. This is an inherently collaborative process. You are still the captain of the ship. People will still follow your leadership, but they'll follow your leadership more if you're nice.
Okay.
Um, but seriously, you should feel bad about making no budget films. I don't brag about this because I shouldn't be doing this. I'm currently saving up money, like I'm putting 1% of every paycheck into filmmaking, so that pretty soon I can start feeding people, and pretty soon I can start paying people, and then once I'm feeding people and I'm paying people, then I'll go buy some equipment. But I'm prioritizing taking care of my cast and crew by feeding people and paying people. Um, Along those lines, okay, this is going to be the absolute hardest part you're going to run into as a no budget filmmaker: sound. Everyone has a phone, everyone can take video. Phones, I'm, I'm sorry, beginning filmmakers don't get it when it comes to sound. They just don't understand that the further away, they just don't understand. The further away you are from your microphone, the worse it sounds, no matter how you're doing it. Like
Right.
I was just like 2 feet away from my microphone, and it automatically sounded like garbage. Make sure you have good sound. That might be recording audio. That might be recording additional dialogue, doing some ADR. In which case, go look up how to do ADR well. Don't throw your actors under the bus with bad ADR. It might be uh, going and looking up D for Darius's video on how to do sound cheap. He has a really good video on how to do sound cheap. But like, if you have to go spend however much it is to go buy a boom kit, that's the first piece of equipment I'm saving up for is
As far as
sound.
them. Okay.
Because my sound sucks. Because because I know how to do sound, but most of the ways I know cost money or turn out badly. Take care of your sound. Your sound guy is going to be the last person that you think of when you're on set. That should not be the case. When you're on set, your sound guy is the second most important person there. You figure out who the most important person there, but the second most is the sound guy.
Okay.
Because if your sound is bad, your movie is bad automatically. No one can hear what's going on. No one can tell what's going on. The jokes don't land. The exposition is terrible. You start just take care of your sound, and your sound will take care of your movie. So yeah, take care of your cast and crew. Keep them happy. Be nice to them. Do everything you possibly can to help them out with no money. And especially take care of your sound, whether it's your sound guy or whether you are your sound guy. Take care of your sound.
Okay. And
Because the sound is going to be the easiest thing for you to overlook. And if you have bad sound, you have a bad movie. Just don't overlook your sound. Sorry. I don't know if I've beaten that horse dead yet or not. Have I beaten that horse dead yet?
Yeah, you've knocked that horse into the ground.
Okay, good.
And I thank you for reiterating that. And once again, Hunter Farris, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Lastly, is there a shout out to anyone you want to give, like anybody that's helped you or anybody that's inspired you?
Oh gosh, there have been so many people that have helped so much that I literally could not name every one of them. The one who's coming to mind is that the cinematographer on the biggest production that I did, this was the one where we had to do the most pre-production on cinematography, and his camera was essential and his work was essential. He was literally playing a character in it because the camera was a complete character. Most people say that as an artsy thing. No, I mean that this was a short about a film crew, and the camera guy was one of the characters, and so every single camera angle we had to think from a level of character. Why is the camera guy putting the camera there? Like seriously, that one was a huge help. His YouTube channel is Alberto Nunes, Nunes, and he's about to do a bunch of videos on cinematography. The other one is my brother was working in film for about 5 years before I started working in film. His name is Benson Farris. By the way, my last name, Farris, is spelled Farris. I don't know why I just said that. Here's the point. Yeah, his work really inspired me to get on other people's sets and really inspired me to start making my own stuff. His work made me feel like filmmaking was a lot more accessible. And he is on Facebook as Benson Farris Film and Media, and he's on Twitter at Go Soundtracks.
Okay. All right. So once again, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And cool thing, once you get more things going on and stuff like that, we always love to have recurring guests. So we would be
Sounds
much
good.
obliged if you'd come back. Thank you very
I'd be much
much.
obliged to come back.